Hi, my name is Leita Jones. I was born November the 4th, 1971. Sometimes I ask myself, why was I born? What was my purpose in life? So I ask myself that because, I felt like I was born in a seat of corruption from day one. My mom moved on Plaza in 1971. She was pregnant, just like my father. My father was, had a lot of addictions to drugs, and he was, very active, in the street. He was recovering addict at the time. So mom had just left. She was in a domestic violence situation. That's the most I know about myself as a baby. I never really see my pictures of myself as a baby. I don't know how I was. I really didn't hear those stories. Up until the time, what I can remember of my life is constant partying, drinking. My family was exposed to a lot of turmoil. So growing up in Linden Plaza, that's where I'm from. That's where I live at now. My life was basically chaos. I moved to, when I was growing up, I was going to a school called 214. And I really can't say much about school. I really can't say much about my childhood right now. I'll bring you up to that when I get to the bad side of it. But I didn't really like school much because at the time, being in school, I was very emotionally disturbed. So, I never went to counseling. I went to psychiatrist, didn't know why I was, emotionally disturbed. Most of my life as a child on Linden Plaza or on the street, I spent most of my time outside the house. I was always fighting, doing a lot of corrupt, activities. My lifestyle was,
What do you mean by corrupt activities?
Corrupt activities in the hood is survival, on the street.
Can you be more precise? Can you give us an example?
The example, as a teen growing up, when your mama's on welfare and you're not getting enough money, you go out in the street and you sell drugs. Either you sell drugs or you become a lookout person.
When did you start? What age did you start?
I didn't actually sell drugs. I was a lookout person, and it started at the age of 14. The reason why I was forced to do those things because, like I say, what I can remember about my childhood and it's a sad situation is that only thing I can remember my childhood is the molestation. And I think that's what drove me out to the street because I was being sexually molested by all my uncles, my brother. And when you get molested, you don't know, nobody's telling you that's wrong. So then you're afraid you're going to be taken for your mother. So then your survival tools start kicking in. So instead of basically maintaining and growing and being nurtured, it's constant survival to fitness. And most of my time I live outside the house because I was afraid to go in the house because the scars of the memories of being in that apartment. Running from my uncle. My uncle was always in the street, coming in the house, performing sex acts, on us. And it was real hard, as a kid in Brooklyn.
When was your mother at the time?
At the time that my uncles was, sexually molesting us, my mother was basically, she was just being a normal mother. She was, we had it was a party in atmosphere. My mother was having parties in the house. It was a disco scene, and I don't want to make excuses and say, well, it wasn't her fault or so on, but she did what she knew best. My mother had, out of the 10 kids that we had, each one of us had basically different fathers, So we was exposed, my mother had my mother had 6 baby fathers. So you draw, my sister, me and my sister Lisa, I was trying to draw myself to her, but then basically she was trying to survive to get out the house. So basically my mom, she was either always out the house, probably going to appointments, partying, drinking. I don't think my mother was doing drugs at the time. I didn't really see any signs, but I really didn't know the signs. I just know that she showed a lot of signs of being naive. She didn't know better. because it was like men in and out, in and out, in and out the house, you know, and that's what we was exposed to. We didn't see the danger. We children, you know.
How many siblings do you have?
So
how many siblings? How many brothers and sisters?
Oh, I have 7 sisters and 3 brothers.
And you used to live in the same house at the time?
Yeah, we all, before I left home, it was 7 of us. No, it's 8 of us. And then when I left to move to Florida, then my mother had 2 other babies by my stepfather.
Why did you move to Florida?
My stepfather, like the whole time that my stepfather moved in with us, we went through a lot of beatings, real bad beatings, you know.
Okay, you talked about stepfather. What happened to your father?
My real father?
Yes.
My father was a junkie. He was an addict. You know, he was addicted to heroin. You know, he was on drugs real bad. And I probably see my father like 6 or 7 times in my whole life.
So you grew up with a stepfather?
So I grew up with different fathers. It's like, it wasn't only with my stepfather. I mean, my uncles raised us. My stepfather raised us. My mother boyfriend raised us. The streets raised us. So basically in the house, it was basically different men that was raising us.
Okay.
One of the things that marked me was at the time when, you know, my sister, she was, you know, she got pregnant. We don't know who she got pregnant by. You know, some say it was a guy named Booby that lived in Brownsville. But, you know, it was so much molestation going on. We don't know who was doing what. And we knew, but nobody was talking. But I never forget the day I was in the kitchen and, you know, Mom always kept things a secret. And me and my sister had just gotten into a fight like the day before then, but I didn't know she was pregnant. So I never forget the time when she was you know, looking in the cabinet, because one thing about me, I was always known to be a detective. And when I was basically bored, I would go in the cabinets and organize cans and stuff. And I know the time when I looked in the cabinet, and it was a relish jar. And I pulled the relish jar out the cabinet. It was a baby in the cabinet, in the jar. And in the course of the day, I knew something was going on. Because my mom and my stepdad was in the back, and my sister was crying, and I was like, "What's going on? You know, why is she crying? You know?" But when you're in a black culture, or you live in the hood, parents don't explain things to you. They basically brush it off, or they hide things. So when I went in the cabinet, I was devastated. But at that moment, I got so numb. That was my protection. And I heard her put the jar back in the cabinet, and I closed the cabinet. And to this day right now, it's like after it happened, you know, I think years later, you know, we had found out that my sister had abortion. We don't know, I don't know whether the abortion, my mom like made her get the abortion, or they were performing an abortion act. I'm not sure. Those questions are, you know, it's always running through my mind. Because when you look at your mother, a mother's supposed to nurture, you know. They're not supposed to cover something, like if something happened to a baby, or, you know, like that wasn't supposed to be found in the cabinet. You know, you know, you 11 years old, you devastated. And so I put it back in the cabinet, and until this day, 39 years old, I always have questions like, what happened? You know, and that marked me for life. It stained me, you know. Like some people always wonder why I was so angry. Why I was always running, why I was always fighting, why I was always cutting people. It's like when you see something that traumatic, it devastates you. And then quite a few things marked me, but I never forget that one day when I was in 5th grade, and the first grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, I never wanted, I didn't like guys around me, because I never was able to talk about my sex molestations. I was afraid. So when I would be in class, I was always to myself, you know. But I never forget the day that I was in 5th grade, and my teacher said, "You're getting left back." And the reason why he would say leave me back because I didn't participate, you know, in the classroom dances and stuff. But I was so subconscious of my body because when I was being molested. Imagine every day you being molested by your uncles. You was performing oral sex. They, you know, performing oral sex on you. When you come to school, you lose yourself. Like you lost. There's no way where a child could be molested, and then when you get to school, you ready to do schoolwork. And I came to school and my teacher said you failed a citywide test, and my mom had to sing signs. But I never forget the day I felt like I was gonna mentally go crazy, and I came back home to the house, and I walked through the door. And first, my stepfather snatched me, and then my mother just beat me. She was just beating me and beating me, beating me. And I think she was so angry, you know.